Alrighty. Every clock in my house shows a different time. So, is it time to start? I guess it is. Yes, it is. Ah, I can see my iPad from here and it's shooting notices at me. Anyway, theme song is playing. Hello, I'm Andrea, and you are at the Quilting Shed in Fredericton, New Brunswick. Part of the Woolistook territories. Woohoo! Yeah, anyway. Unceded territory. Yeah, that's it. That's right. What have we got today? The canvas flannels did come in because last week, yeah, I did tell you about this. I woke up with a headache and I had a headache last night, and it's one of those ice pick headaches that don't go away. They just stab your head until they're done. So I'm going to be in the nonsense making thing. Nonsense making. So the canvas flannels came, and that's really good because this is the first day that we had frost. Hi, Candace. Candace, are you at the retreat? Is the retreat tuned in? There's some people from one of the guilds off at a retreat this week. So quiet here in the shop. Nah, it's been reasonably busy. So it's finally cold, and wow, wasn't that excellent planning on my part to tell you all about flannels on a very chilly morning, just like the title says. So I'm not going to show you all the colors, but the line of blenders we have is called canvas. It's not the style of fabric. It's just what they called it because of the little grungy design. The word grunge was taken, so they had to think of something else. But yeah, it's this nice mottled, marbly effect, but in a flannel. So these coordinate with our blender solids, our blenders that aren't solid. They coordinate. And it's so funny because we compared one of the navies. This navy flannel is actually lighter than the navy canvas, which is funny. So I thought I'd just show you a few of the colors. There's less colors of the flannel than there are in the canvas line because there's like 60 in the blenders, and 60 flannels would be a lot. So this is like 18. So it's like the more popular ones. There's no pink. I discovered that too. There's no pink. Other than that, there are a lovely selection of colors. There's this lovely navy and this nice forest green. And I'm picking out all the popular colors for like right now. And this nice red, which is actually it's a Merlot. It is kind of a tomatoey red. It's not as tomatoey as it's showing on the screen. But it is very nice. It's a little deeper than this. And I got out the French vanilla. Nice ice cream. Because if you are doing a baby quilt, you wanted flannel for the back. And this is good flannel too. It's from Northcott, of course. And it's nice and thick. I'm still trying to find out the difference between flannel and flannelette. And nobody can tell me officially. You look everywhere. But yeah, this is really good flannel. It's nice. Flannelette might be fuzzy on both sides, maybe. I find the flannelettes usually come like 36-inch wide and usually little kid prints or baby prints. But yeah, this is nice flannel and it's lovely and it's thick. And if it's anything like the backing flannel that I have from Northcott, and I'm expecting it to be, it washes up really well and nice and fluffy and doesn't bleed. And I just realized I forgot something that I was going to tell you about. Ron, are you still in the kitchen? No. Darn it. Where's my assistants when I need them? Gone. You hang on for 1 sec. I'm just going to run down the hall and come right back. Whew. That's enough exercise for one day. So yeah, we were talking about flannel, and flannel's really good for nap quilts. That's what triggered me into thinking, because the latest quilt I made for Ron has the Northcott flannel on the back because his old nap quilt, which has flannel on the back because that's for naps, he says, is a hot mess. And I wanted to show you because I had people asking me questions this week, and I thought I'm going to talk about this. So Some of the questions I get asked is, can you mix these fabrics? Can you use this fabric in a quilt? Can you use that fabric in a quilt? And one of my regulars are like, yeah, 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 I know. You're going to tell me you can do whatever you want. There's lots of people, if you read around, like, oh, no, don't use that. Don't use that. And it's not that you can't use them. It's that there's considerations that you where you might not want to use them in in a quilt for different reasons. And my mom's here and she'll remember when I made this quilt. Yeah, isn't that great? So this is very faded in spots where you can see. So one of the questions I got was, can you use broadcloth in a quilt? Sure you can. But there's considerations where you might not want to use broadcloth in a quilt. If you're making a scrappy quilt, go right ahead. If it's going to be drug on the ground by like a 4-year-old for a few years, knock yourself out. It's great stuff. It'll wear lots. You're making somebody a wedding present? Maybe not. Nap quilt, perfectly fine. Basically, I wouldn't use it for the good stuff. So we raided my mom's scraps, and I lived in Miramichi at the time, up by my mom where she was at the time. Long story there. And they had a fabric store up there where you could get fabric by the pound as well. And we also had leftover sheeting from a manufacturing place in Quebec. I don't know. Anyway, questionable sources for some of this fabric. And you can tell, see this navy and this burgundy? These are the broadcloth. The broadcloth means it has some polyester in it. It's not 100% cotton. It's usually like 60-40, 70-30 for the broadcloth. Well, it's hard wearing and the colors last, unlike the 100% cottons over here, which totally faded. This used to be a hunter green, yes. And also this, I wanted to talk about quality too, because the beige fabric that I used was also 100% cotton, but it was a really cheap cotton and very low quantity. And you can see it's the first one wearing out. Like every other block like this has got holes in it. That nap quilt is over 19 years old. Yes, yes, it is. It's a very old. Thank you, Mom, for doing the math. Oh, yeah, see, look. So this is what happens when you use the cheap fabric. You get holes. It doesn't wear the same. So that's one reason why you might not want to mix up fabrics. But if it's a hard wearing quilt that's going to be used constantly and washed a couple times a year because it is in use so much, just be prepared that some days, if you use a mix of fabrics, some of those pieces are just going to fall apart. But for us, that's okay. This is the trip around the world, basically. And people also ask me, do you pre-wash your fabrics? I'm like, I hate pre-washing. It adds me another step in that just makes it so I can't get to that project right away. This is one of the few times where I had regrets that I did not pre-wash my fabric, because this green flannel right here, which I bought at Fabricville, it was 20 years ago, so it's fine. It's decent flannel. It's really nice. It wore really well. It's not quite so fuzzy around the binding where we just, folded it from the back. It's not even a separate binding, and stitched it down. I didn't even quilt this one. My mom knew a lady who would quilt your quilt for $40, but all she did was follow the seams. That's it. And if your seams weren't straight, too bad. She just kept going on straight. Yeah, there's a lovely intersection right here where it's a little off. That's fine. I also wanted to show you this because you're all like, oh my God, your work's so beautiful. Yes, you have to make a lot of work that's not beautiful before you get to the really beautiful stuff. So this is one of the first ones that I finished in the second round when I went back to quilting. So yeah, it's over 19 years old. Finished it for Ron. So this is one of these I didn't really care about much. When I just wanted to get her done and get it finished. So you can see what happens. I did mix fabrics. It was fine for a while until it wasn't. And back to the pre-washing. I did not pre-wash this, and it has bled ever since. Like if I wash this now, there will still be green in the water. It's on my list to I should probably wash this with a bit of retain to finally fix the dye. That's how much it bled. I mean, it doesn't get hot and sweaty under it and take a nap and come out with green hands and feet or anything, but this is Ron's beloved nap quilt that sits on the recliner upstairs where he takes a nap after dinner, and it's very cuddly. Ah, so good. Our family's weird. Yes, it's all like, it smells like you. This reminds me of the story, very briefly. When my two older kids were very, very little wee babies, and my daughter Sarah was under two, because we hadn't had Megan yet. Can you imagine me with only two kids? Um, Daddy had to go to work in town every day. He didn't work from home like he does now. And little baby Sarah, she would scoot, not crawl. She was big and really heavy, so she wasn't walking until she was 18 months old. So she would scoot along the floor on her bum. She would find the dirty laundry and she would grab one of Ron's sweaters and wrap herself in it and snuggle it all day until Daddy came home. And then when Daddy came home, she'd chuck the sweater away. But you could do that with a quilt too. See, I'm tying it all together. So yeah, if you have any more weird questions, feel free to ask other weird questions. They're not weird to me. They're fascinating. And it's like totally the best part of my job. Other questions I have been asked this week, other than like, where can I find such and such online? I'm really, really good at Googling, really exceptionally good. I have a little certificate from Google, which I can't wait to find because I'm going to hang that sucker up on the wall because I think it's hilarious. And the course was actually way harder than you thought. Anyway, so I had another customer come in. She had these cottage industry style made, like small business type made. I'm trying to say not manufactured by a large factory or available at regular stores. She got them at some market in Ontario, I think is what she said. But anyway, they were handmade pants, small scale kind of manufacturing. That's why I said cottage industry. And her sister loves the fit of these pants, loves the fabric. So she was looking for a fabric match, which I didn't have. But I gave her advice. And she was trying to copy the pants and make a pattern from them so she could make her sister more pants. So I gave her tips on that too, because that was another one of my side hobbies. I know, right? Because being short and tiny, it's really hard to find clothes off the rack. So when you do find something that fits, you want to make like 10 of them just in all the colors that you will ever need, because then it fits. So I gave her some tips on how to copy the pants and make her own pattern. And she didn't even have to take them apart. They were in a condition where they weren't going to be worn again. So she could still take them apart. And I told her, just to save time, just cut the seams right off. And then when you trace the pattern, you just add that seam allowance right back onto your paper. So that was super cool. This is all about some of my previous life thing. Honestly, you definitely need a quilt like this. So yes, you can. The takeaway from here was you can use different fabrics in your quilt, but you have to be prepared for some stuff like this to happen 20 years later. I know. I love them. Anyway, what else have we got for you? What else did I make? I put in the newsletter. I don't think I showed this, but I've been showing everybody in the shop when they come in. I put in the newsletter a pattern for an elf stocking. It's an elf stocking because it curls up at the end like this. Isn't this adorable? This is the cutest. I made this for my grand dog, Winnie, and I don't see Caitlin this morning because they moved. They bought that house, the really nice house that they bought out in the country has really crappy internet. The poor kids are suffering terribly with load times. They have to take turns watching videos. This is not good. Anyway, so this was in last week's newsletter. The newsletter is a recap of pretty much everything and some handy links. And sometimes I blather on about this, that, and everything. Sometimes it's good. So if you're not signed up to the newsletter, you go here and there's a big sign up box on the front page and you put your email address in there and everything. And you will get my newsletter in your inbox. I do cross post it to Facebook so you can like read it on the web and stuff anyway, but it's better if it gets right to your inbox. Because that way, if Facebook is down or suddenly gets hit by the apocalypse, you still have a copy and you can read it anyway. So yeah, I made this stocking. It was a free pattern. Links in my newsletter. If you scroll back on our Facebook page, you'll find last week's newsletter. And you can find it that way too if you are not on my newsletter list. But I really like this and very, very simple. All I didn't even line it because they just got you to put fusible fleece inside. And I did use my serger here. If you have serger questions, I can answer that too. Telling somebody how to rethread their serger this week. So yeah, it's really nice body, really good size, nice and curly for the dog with the curly tail. Somebody enjoys the bonus legs. Heidi does. That's great, Heidi. Because I try to make them artsy. The extra links that I put in, they're not always specifically quilting related. But so yeah, speaking of 20 years ago and stockings, I know we're just digging up the past everywhere. Back, remember when I said didn't care? So back then, I'd also made a ton of stockings for the family, just quick and dirty. Like this one, it's the print's even upside down. This one's mine, and no, there's no cuff. So what I did was I was so happy with that stocking and how it looked with the fusible fleece that I got our old stockings and I took them apart. I actually did take them apart, put the fusible fleece in them and sewed them back together, same size. And wow, the stockings that were floppy and didn't seem big enough all of a sudden seem like reasonably decent. And I'm just going to put like a white cuff on these and get ready for Christmas morning and candy. And somebody better get me a chocolate orange this year because I mean, seriously, a chocolate orange would be great. What do you like in your Christmas stocking aside from quilting stuff? In our house, we do a lot of candy. But other people, they do little things. And one of these weeks, I am going to show a bunch of stocking stuffers. It's on my list, but not today because I have a list to stick to. And then I get further down and I'm like, oh no, I already talked about that. Oh no, what am I going to do? Oh. So, yeah, the other takeaway from this is it's perfectly okay to go back to old projects and redo them. It's fine. If you've been in the shop, you've seen the stuff from my grandmother where she taught me how to quilt and we made those appliance covers. And I do have a little piece of them left because, of course, 30 years after she taught me how to do this, the appliance covers were all in various stages of worn out. And the pieces I have are just both cut out neatly because she was going to make them into pot holders, the good bits that were left. Yeah. See, it's okay to refashion stuff. I mean, it's not wartime. We don't have to ration anything yet. But yeah, I've done this a few times, and generally, I'm happier. It's okay to, it's the Oprah thing. When you know better, you do better. When you know better, you do better. When you know better, you do better. But you know what? It's not a crabby quilt. I mean, he still loves it. It is falling apart. He can still nap under it. Jeez, it's just not a family heirloom, which is perfectly okay. Not every quilt is a family heirloom, and that's fine. Sorry, mom. Ah. Anyway, sorry, I'm just reading comments. The other thing I made this week, because a lot of people have been taking some classes. There are some great people who have been doing classes, like my friend Gail. She was doing some classes down in Ormocto. I don't think she did this particular class, but I'm sure she did it last year. I broke down. This is the wonky Christmas tree runner quilt. Christmas tree runner. Yeah, the wonky Christmas tree runner. It's not a quilt, it's a runner. So I broke down and I bought the pattern. It's available online for like $4 American for a digital download. I can advise you how to do that too. I get asked for people who are new to digital shopping online. So I did that. Emma's bothered because some of the trees are upside down until I explained it's in the middle of your table. People on one side will have right side up trees and people on the other side will have right side up trees. So I did go through some of my stash, but I also went through a lot of the fabric that's in the store because I do see people probably overthinking some of the greens that you can put together. And I've messed up on some of these. I know I have, but this was also a get her done thing. So yeah, I just did this to sort of show you can throw whatever greens all together and not overthink it. Just throw them in there. You know what? Still looks good. And the background with the light colors, people are also sometimes having issues trying to pick the low volumes for the background. So I did pick some with some dots and a little bit more color to show you that in the end, it all still works. And unlike Ron's nap quilt, this is all high quality, 100% cotton, quilt shop quality type fabric. So it will wear evenly and be very, very nice. I have not quilted it yet. I had to run downstairs this morning and grab it because I threw it downstairs to, well, I didn't throw it. I took it downstairs gently. Sometimes I throw stuff and then Ron gets annoyed because he's like, there's a pile of crap at the bottom of the stairs, dear. Don't clean that up. Jeez, I tripped over it. So, yeah. The other takeaway is don't think too hard about doing stuff for crazy wonky things because, sometimes just throw it together. It does. Like the only rule I used here was it had to be green. Is it light green? Is it dark green? Is it olive green? Didn't care. Threw it all in there. It still worked. This apparently bothers Emma really bad. It almost bothers me, but not enough to take it out and redo it. Because honestly, this is just a sample. I have lots of samples. And I think it's actually okay to have samples in the shop that aren't 100% perfect. If it's too perfect, it might seem discouraging to some people because they're like, I'll never make it that good. But if I could say there's a tiny little mistake there, so ease up. And I know it's terrible to point out your mistakes and it kind of devalues your own work. If I was at a craft sale or something or something different, like, or it was a present, I would just say thank you and move on and not point out the mistakes. Right. Anyway, but that's that. Speaking of colors, the other thing I have left to show you is I did get in Icona solids. I did talk that we got in some new solids and stuff. I got in next year's calendar for 2022. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to plunk stuff on the calendar already. So look at that. As always, it comes with some free patterns, and each month is a particular colorway. I think if you have issues with color and you wanted to play with color a little more or learn more about color, this is probably a good way to sort of absorb it by osmosis. Look at that. I mean, yeah. So you could look at all these nice blues and stuff. So this is next year's. And what price did I put on these? I think I put like 30 bucks on them. They are kind of expensive, but they're gorgeous. And you have free patterns. And I also decided, because I'm completely insane, if you come in and grab next year's calendar, I will give you one of last year's calendar. I'm just trying to give them away at this point, which it's a larger desk. Ooh, look, it's got paper at the back for sketching your quilts. Way more free patterns, even more, and the same color stuff. So the good thing about the calendars is, because somebody else asked me this one, are the colors accurate? Can I use them for fabric matching? They are a little off if you are trying to match, like what color brown goes with this, brown Kona goes with this particular print that I have. You'd get sort of close enough, not necessarily an exact match, because the inks that print on paper are different than the inks that print on fabric. And it shows different because it's on paper and on fabric. Even if you use the same ink, it would look different. But I found, this is last month's from the paper version. You can cut them up into like paint chip style things. And they're really good for playing around with color when you just want to find like, okay, here's close to the colors that I have in the fabrics that I've got. What else goes with them? Move stuff around until it looks pleasing to you. The other thing I thought you could do, I mean, if you're into paper crafts and collage, this is friggin' great. The other thing you could do is, often when you're doing like a quilt along with somebody and they'll say, here's the Kona colors that I listed. Well, maybe your local quilt shop doesn't have all those colors. But what's good is if you have something like this, you can say, oh, okay, they used paprika, but my local quilt shop has brick. And you know what? They're close enough, I think, when I put them next to the other colors that they've used. So yeah, I could probably substitute and it would still work out fine. Yeah, it does. I had another customer doing a Minecraft quilt. She's on her second one now. And it listed a bunch of Kona colors that they use. But realistically, when we broke it down, it was like, okay, you need 2 dustier greens and 2 bright, saturated, lighter greens. So I've got those. That's what we used. And, you need 2 different pinks. So we got two different pinks. Didn't have the exact ones, but we had close. It was close enough because it's a Minecraft quilt for a 6-year-old. It's fine. See, we're just chill today. We're just chilling out, having our tea. Mm. So yeah, if you have a Kona lover in the house, get them this calendar for next year. I will give you last year's calendar. You got to buy this year's though. I'm not like totally insane. The other thing, if you do work with a lot of Konas, that's worth to have. I love this. I have one for the shop, and I got really smart with the shop one. This is the Kona color chart. It has actual pieces of the fabrics that you can touch, and these are accurate. And they're all color sorted, and I mean, it's a color lover's dream. And like I said, if you're, I do have a lot of people ask about colors. These are a great way to just sort of dive in and sort of start experimenting and matching things up. I mean, they have 365 colors. Yeah, it's great. I had an older copy of this that was a little out of style because they've added more color since. So I cut it up. There's some tutorials on the internet where you can cut them up and put magnets on the back and really play around with your colors. Super great. Again, it's good to have a look and say, oh, well, okay, like, well, there's two pinks here. One's called pink and one's called peony. And honestly, on the screen here, they look almost identical. Yeah, pink and peony. And in real life, they look almost identical. So, you know, if your local quilt shop has the pink, but not the peony, and the pattern called for peony, you could put the pink in there and it would still work out totally fine because it's very, very close. Very, very close. Unless you were matching that, trying to match that exactly to a print that had that exact pink in it. And even people who are doing that are like, yeah, well, it's close enough. It's not going to be right next to it. It's good. That is your other chill out lesson for the day. This is $40, but worth every friggin' penny. And the other thing I did with my store copy is I finally got smart and went through and marked, this is not my store copy, so I didn't do this. This could be your copy. I went through with a highlighter and I marked all the colors that we normally keep in stock. So next time I order more colors, I can just keep adding stuff to my chart and say, yeah, this is the one we have. We can find it on the chart easily. We can find one that, you know, was a substitute or whatever, because somebody's like, I need this color for this pattern. What do you have this color? You don't have this color. So then we find a substitute, and most of the time we're perfectly fine. And if you can get half of what you need from here, that's still great. I'm hoping my headache's almost gone now. Could be the adrenaline. We don't know. I did not even do my sticky note list. I just had stuff here, but somehow I'm still managing to keep track, except for the part where I forgot Ron's quilt. Hope my mom kept you entertained there in the comments. The other thing I've been working on between customers, which thank God, because I just get to for 5 minutes, boom, another customer. That's fine. The busy season is to be expected. I have this old paper piecing project, which I am working on. This is a pineapple block. It has 49 pieces in it. I know. It would be a lot for like a 12-inch block. And this is a 3-inch block. And yes, I am paper piecing it. And that is insane. It does look gorgeous when it's finished. I took a miniatures class from Linda Hubbard. Fantastic class. She has a sample where she did this, and I'm doing similar, except, ta-da, some of the block, this is a block in progress, so you can see how this is the back of the paper and stuff, and I've marked in where I need to put the reds and the creams. But I had an idea that the project that I'm making with this is however many blocks there are. By the time you get to the bottom of the quilt, it's going to look like the reds faded out. So I'm hoping to be able to pull that off. It looks like I'll be able to do it. If it comes out like I see it in my head. It's just a very long-term project at this point because you have to concentrate. And this takes 45 minutes to finish this block. And that's only if I'm working on like 4 or 5 at a time. So by the time that I finish like those 4 blocks, however much time has passed, you divide it by 4, and it's 45 minutes each block. Yeah. So they don't get finished quickly, but it's since it's 49 little pieces where you Have to sew on these little tiny lines. See, you just sew on that little tiny line. Yep, that's it. And then you move on to the next piece. I do find this soothing. It's really, I do. I actually find this soothing. Put on some Netflix, do this, nice cup of tea, maybe a little piece of chocolate. Yeah, that's a good time for me anyway. Your mileage may vary. So that's the other thing that I'm working on. No, I will not show you. It finished it next week. Yeah, right. Anyway, it seems our time has come to an end here. If you're watching from the retreat, have a ball. I miss your faces. You can all talk about how crazy I am doing stuff like this. I know, along with the like 15 other projects that I've started. And the binding. Oh God, the binding. I did actually bind the quilt this weekend for a customer, though. I have to get to the billing part. Because I will bind if you pay me, not hand bind. I will machine bind if you pay me. You can't pay me enough to hand bind. Because it's too hard on my eyes, too hard on my hands. Anyway, gotta make yourself happy, right? And this is one of those things that makes me happy. So that cocoa, nice chilly weather. I've got my hoodie on. Everything's nice and warm. We have the flannel. Did I forget to tell you it's 18 bucks a meter, which isn't too terrible, especially because, it's really good flannel. It's not the cheap stuff. So that's it for this week. Sign up for my newsletter if you're not. And I will talk to you then if I don't see you sooner. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Let's get that music playing and drag us out through the credits. This is Retro Soul from Ben Sound. It's royalty-free music. I'm allowed to use it as long as I tell you where I got it from. So there you go. You too can get some music like this. It's just jazzy. Have a relaxing time this week and find some time to quilt. Love you, babe. See you later. Bye, Mom. Bye, Heidi. Bye, Candace. Bye, Marge. Bye, Liz. It's like Romper Room, but in reverse. That is not the click button. Oops. This is the right button. Bye.